we're bringing in a brother who's the author of several books, The Historical Origin of Islam, and also The Historical Origins of Christianity. Wow. And it's my pleasure to bring him in. It's Brother Dr. Walter Williams, and the topic of the lecture is going to be 3 steps towards liberation for Africans born in America, spirituality versus religion. That's a hot topic. That's a topic everybody should get something from. And it's also subtitled Historical Origins of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have the lecture, the brother's going to do a question and answers, and after the question and answers we're going to have a break for about an hour or so. And then we're going to come back and he's going to do another presentation for everyone. So, you know, it's my pleasure once again to introduce Dr. Walter Williams.
Okay, thank you, Brother Shabazz, and I want to greet everyone and our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, greeting of Mayat Hotep. We put the Mayat in there because we have to give cosmic balance to the universe and to humanity. And you cannot do that unless you add the woman in it. You have to add the female. So therefore, I always say Mayat Hotep. And I want to thank Brother Shabazz and his wife Jamila for bringing me here to New York to be with you at this very moment. And also I want to thank our gracious host and hostess, Lady Brown and Clemson Brown. And of course, I couldn't be here if it wasn't for my wife. So I have to give my good thanks and high praise to my wife, Arnetta, for getting me together to come here to be with you at this very moment. Now, the lecture is going to be on 3 steps towards liberation for the African born in America. Now, just like, you know, everyone know about Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch came to America in the latter part of the 18th century. And he brought a message to the slave plantation owners in America about how to treat their slave population. And those slaves were our ancestors. And everybody know, or should know, what the Willie Lynch theology is about. Everybody here know about the Willie Lynch theology? Okay. So he told the slave owners, if you use my theory and put this in the minds and into the life and into the actions of your slaves, then what I'm going to tell you and what you're going to teach them from this theology is that it will be in place in the Negro race for 400, even 1,000 years, okay? So here I am today, the year 2005. I'm going to give you a liberation message to liberate us as a people. And if you understand my message, it's very simple. If you understand my message, then you will be liberated at this very moment. And you will, even if you don't see me again in life, you can use this method that I'm going to spell out to you. And if you use that, then you can be free, spiritually free, and you can be liberated. Now, the first step in our liberation is that we are going to have to know something about ourselves, because what has happened to us as a people living in North America and throughout the world as African people, we have been deluged, inundated, and our minds has been infested with these various religions, the Bible, God, this dead white man on the cross, this Jesus Christ thing, this Prophet Muhammad, Salam Alaikum, and so forth and so on. And I'm a black Hebrew Israelite, and so forth and so on. So therefore, we're going to have to bring some type of clarification about these various religions. Now, I've written 2 books. One is called The Historical Origin of Christianity. The thesis of this particular book, it says here, there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ never existed. Okay? Now that's a very bold statement, but I had to make that statement because I want this information to be imparted to one race of people. This is the reason why I wrote this book, for one race of people only, and that's us, Africans living in North America and Africans living throughout the world. Okay? This is a message for you. If you want to read it, you buy this book. If you don't want it, it's okay, because I don't make a living selling books. Okay? So it's a message in here for you. And I've written this book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. My second book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. The thesis of this book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of a Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. Never existed. It's a myth. So we're dealing with religions based off of mythology. We're dealing with religions based off of fiction. We're dealing with religions that's based off of lies. We're dealing with religions that has deceived all of mankind. And I'll tell you how you have been deceived as we go further in the lecture. So this is my second book, also written for the African community. This book is not sold in European or white bookstores. Nothing but African bookstores around America, in the Caribbean, and throughout the UK. Now, Europeans can buy this book. They go to Borders or Barnes and Nobles, and they can buy it from my distributor. Or go online, they can buy it, you know. But anyway, these 2 books and my lectures is geared for one group and one race of people, and that's us Africans living in America and throughout the world. Now, our first step of liberating ourselves is that we are going to have to know who we are spiritually. If you do not know who you are spiritually, then you're going to be in trouble, okay? Because anybody can come up to you and give you anything because you don't know anything about yourself. What happened to us as a people, and people in general all over the world, is that during the time of your innocence, meaning that during the time of your childhood, your parents, your grandparents, or someone came into your life and introduced you to a religion, okay? And you, being an innocent child, you could not say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Christian. You couldn't say that because you're a child. So you grow up with this great big old cross with a dead white man around your neck. And you don't even know what it means. You don't know anything about Christianity. You don't know anything about religion. The next thing you know, you're singing in the choir. There is room at the cross for you. And you don't know why you're singing that. You see? So the first thing that a human being of any race, creed, or color needs to know some facts about who you are spiritually, individually. Okay? Now, let me tell you some facts. And you can't deny this. Every human on earth was created and brought forth as a human being into this world, as a human being, by the creatress force that used their mother and father as human instruments to bring forth in every human on earth of all races, creeds, and color. Okay? You and I are not exceptions to that. We were brought forth by that same type of creation. Okay? When we came out of our mother's womb, the universal creatress gave us everything that we will spiritually need to sustain ourselves for the rest of our lives, but never gave us a religion. It was man who gave us the religion. Man gave us the religion, a religion that we know nothing about. You were not born with the religion. If you don't believe it, go and look at your birth certificate and see whether you have Christian on there, whether you have Muslim on there, whether you have Black Hebrew Israelitism on there, whether you have Jew on there, a Buddhist on there. It won't be there. You are a free-spirited human being. This is what you were born with. You were born free of all of that. I'll tell you what you do. Go and look at a child. Just stand back and look at a child. You don't even have to tell the child or nobody what you're doing. Stand back and look at a child, boy or girl, and you look at that child and you say, that child knows nothing about no Jesus Christ. That child knows nothing about no Christianity. That child is innocent of all of this foolishness out here until one of their parents come along and introduce this child to something that they don't know anything about, because the child's grandparents introduced the child's mother and father to a religion that they didn't know nothing about. And the great-grandparent keeps going back, did the same thing to the grandparents. You see? So here we are today, settled down with a religion that we know nothing about. Nothing about it. So that's the reason why I wrote this book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, to explain to the African community about Christianity and about Islam. So therefore, every human was born free of all religion. Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me
Yeah.
hear you. Amen.
Amen.
Like I said, don't get carried away. But anyway, every human was born with a pineal gland. And that pineal gland is a sensor organ that sits in the middle of your brain. It serves as a receiver and a sender between you, the human being, and the universe. You see? That's where you get your freedom from. Your mind is connected to the universe, which is infinite. Okay? It's infinity. You can do anything with your mind. Everything that you see in its physical form came from the invisible spiritual realm first. It came up in someone's mind. Okay? This auditorium, this building wasn't here at one time. It was just in someone's mind, and they took this building, whatever you see in here, and put it on paper, and then produced it from the drawing. But it came from someone's mind. So your mind is very, very strong. And how are you connected with that? Through your pineal gland, which is the sensor organ, like I said, that sits in the middle of your brain. It serves as a receiver and a sender between you, the human being, and the universe. You see? Now, your bottom of your pineal gland are your nostrils. What do you do with your nostrils? You intake air to keep that indwelling spirit alive inside of you. That's how you keep in consciousness with the universe, through your pineal gland. Has nothing to do with no religion. See? It was given to you. This is your indwelling, divine, spiritual birthright. This is your birthright. Okay? Has nothing to do with no religion. Has nothing to do with no Islam alaikum. Has nothing to do with no dead white man on the cross. Has nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. See? So therefore, you have to know something about yourselves first. Know that you were born free of all religion. Know that you were born a free-spirited, wielded human being. This is what you were born with. This is your indwelling divine spiritual birthright. Not a religion. Then man comes along and gives you a religion. See? And then man comes along to go along with that religion, which is all packaged up. He gives you God. You see? And then he gives you, in that same package of religion, gives you a Bible. Okay? Now you know nothing about the religion, Christianity, Islam, or any of those religions. You know nothing about it. That's all in your package. You know nothing about God. You know nothing about the Bible. Because all of these things, Christianity or religion, the Bible and God, you have to believe in that. One has to believe. This is, without your belief in the Bible, without your spirituality connected to God, and without your belief in the dead white man on the cross, none of those three things will have life. Now, my wife, Arnetta, came to me one day and she says, Walter, I want to tell you something about God. I said, okay. She says, God is an abstract idea that needs human spirituality to give it life. I'm going to repeat that. Isn't that profound? Mm-hmm. I'm going to repeat it again. Maybe you missed it. She told me. She says, God is an abstract idea that needs human spirituality to give it life. I said, wow. Just like I heard someone say, wow. I did the same thing. Wow, that's profound. That's true. Without you having and giving God and this dead white man on the cross and Islam Alaikum and this Prophet Muhammad and this Yahweh and this Jehovah and I'm a black Hebrew Israelite and the Bible and I've come from the blood of Abraham and all of that foolishness, all of that would not have life. Why? Because if you only knew who you are spiritually and what you was given at the time of your birth, spiritually, then no one can walk up to you and say, hey sister, come on, be a Christian. You say, hey, I don't need that. I was born with that. You keep that and you walk away. Someone said, Assalamu alaikum, hey mister, go away from me with that junk. Okay? I was on talk radio January the 24th out of Los Angeles, California. And a young lady came on the air and she says, I'm a black Hebrew Israelite. I'm from the race of the black Hebrew Israelite. I said, oh my goodness. And I began to ask her questions. I said, hold it, so you from the blood of Abraham? She said, yes, I'm from the blood of Abraham. I said, where was Abraham buried? And a big silence came over. I said, miss, are you there? You? She couldn't tell me. But, you know, I said, okay, where was this Abraham born according to tradition? And she couldn't tell me. She, you know, so what are you doing to your lives out of ignorance of who you are? You don't know about these various religions. You don't know what has been put upon you. Now, I talked about God briefly. I'm going to get into God. Now, I don't want anyone in this audience to think that I'm an atheist. Okay? I know that there's a higher power than Walter Williams and any human being walking this earth. I know that. I don't believe that. I know that. You know how I know that? Here I am. Ta-da. This is the proof. I know. There's something created me. What created me? I don't know. I don't know. See, I come and bring a lecture to you and a lecture around the country, and I bring you the facts. I don't waffle. If I don't know something, I tell you I don't know that. And that's fair. I'm not going to tell you something that will send you all half-cocked and say, Dr. Walter Williams told me that, and I'll be wrong. I have to be as right as I can because I'm bringing a message to you. Okay, and I don't want to give you no misinformation. I'm not an atheist when I talk to you about God. When I tell people God is a man, you have to understand that. It's all part of our liberation. God is a man. If you don't believe that God is not a man, every time an individual uses the term God, they say he, his, or him. Is that correct? So God is a man. And when you go to the Webster's Dictionary and look up God, it says a male deity. Okay? It doesn't say a female deity. Now what about the female? They don't even mention the female. These religions kill the female out of their religion. Okay? And you females sit up there and let old Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing do that to you. Okay? And you don't say nothing about him. You don't even question him. Okay? Talking about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. What about the woman? Wouldn't be no damn Father and the Son either without the female. Huh? Like you let these guys get up and say, Hotep. I said, sisters, don't let them do you like that. Got to put Mayat in there. Without Mayat, there wouldn't be no Hotep. Okay? So we have to bring things back to reality. Okay? God is a term that can only be used for religious purposes only. That's all. Outside of religion, God has no power. Where does God get his power from? Tell me. From where? Your belief in what? In God. You give God your spiritual power. The power that you was given free at the time of your birth. So God has no power. Now, people are trained wrong because this is part of the deceit that is connected to these various religions. Now, let me explain this. You have the creation of the sun, the moon, the sky, stars, air, water, earth, and vegetation, animals, and humanity. Is that correct? Okay, that's part of creation, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, now, why would you allow anybody to reduce all of that creation down to a man? Mm-hmm. Huh? Why would you do that? A man. A man does not have any power. A man cannot make anything with life in it by himself. A female cannot make anything with life in it by herself. Can't do it. It's impossible. The female and the male has to get together and procreate together to bring forth life. Okay? But singularly, I can't make anything with life in, not a rat, roach, dog, or cat. I can't do it. Okay? Female the same way. So we have to understand something. So now, here you have allowed these misguided ministers to introduce you to God and tell you that God is almighty. No, 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 no. God has no power. Only the power that you give it. Going back to what my wife said, God is an abstract idea that needs human spirituality to give it life. Without you giving it life, God don't have no power. So don't be misled by these misguided ministers telling you that. Okay? So this is part of our first step of liberation. See? Now, it's up to you to liberate. I can't liberate you. You have to do this yourself. You know how you do that? You change your mind. You change the thoughts that's floating up here about these various religions. Okay? That's how you liberate yourself. I'm giving you the keys to liberate yourself. And you can free yourself. You don't need to go to church. You don't need God in your life. God needs you. You don't need God. See? So, the worst enemy in our community, you know who it is? Huh?
Preacher.
The minister, Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing. He's the one, he's the worst culprit in our community. Why? Because he keeps encouraging us to go and bow down to a dead white man on the cross. Every opportunity that he can get. Is that true? Okay, so therefore, that's our enemy. He's telling you to bow down and worship our enemy. The enemy on that cross is a dead white man. The same white man that put our ancestors into slavery. Huh? And now he's telling you to go down there and bring all your troubles to Jesus. You see? And anything you need, the Lord will take care of it. You see? Well, now, let's go back to the plantation. Now, old Massa owned the plantation. Is that correct? Okay. And old Massa had an overseer by the name of Boss Charlie, another old ignorant white man. Is that right? Okay. Now, we are supposed to have gotten free from slavery due to the Emancipation Proclamation that was drawn up January 1st, 1863, and then 1865, we're supposed to have really got emancipated from slavery. And so therefore, with slavery being supposedly ended, we as a people, African people living in America, supposed to have gained our freedom. but we didn't do it. You were free to move around to a certain extent because you got the Jim Crow laws that came in there, but to a certain extent. But then our minds was not free. You see? Now, who took the place of Boss Charlie for old Massa? Tell me. Who? The preacher. That's the guy. Took Boss Charlie's place to keep you in line, to keep you worshiping Boss Charlie. But now Boss Charlie's on the cross, called Jesus the Christ. See? That's very slick, isn't it? And you all sit up there and just take it all in. Oh boy, y'all be humming, and organists be playing, and all of this stuff be going. Y'all be singing Room at the Cross, and Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on to promised land, and all this other kind of foolishness. You see that? Don't know what you're doing, don't know who you are spiritually, don't know what was given to you as a human being at the time of your birth, don't know that. You're confused. So that's the first step of your liberation. And then collectively, we can say our liberation. Okay? Because then we have to bond together and unify ourselves away from these various religions. Why? Because you know who you are spiritually. That's very simple. Now, I've given you a handout. Everybody got one of these? I'm going to show you how destructive religions are. Now, turn to the second page. On the second page, what do you see there? You see a little brother boy, right? And what does it say? Read midway of that page. What does it say? Someone read it out loud. What does it say? Okay. No, I never read that because you know exactly where it's at.
Okay.
Read it out loud.
Okay. In reference to the photo below, it says, at a church in Brooklyn, a solitary boy communes with his God. There has been a decade-long revival of Christian fervor in New York. And today, there are 7,100 evangelical, charismatic, and Pentecostal churches in the city.
Okay. And you see what happened? This little boy is praying to who? Come on.
Petitions Jesus Christ.
He's praying to his God. It says, he's praying to his God. This is a disgrace. This is the reason why Shabazz and his wife brought me in. To tell you and show you this right here in Brooklyn. Okay? This little boy may be living next door to you. His parents introduced him to this junk, assassinating his spirituality. This little boy is going to pass this on to his children, and his children are going to pass it on to their children. It has to stop. This is a disgrace. Do you hear me? This is a disgrace. Everybody in here now should be crying. I should be passing out clinic tissues. You should be crying looking at this. This is a disgrace. This is what is happening and has happening and continue to be happening to us as a people. This is it. Who encourages this little boy? Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing.
That's why we have no more power.
Okay? That's the reason why we have no more power, like the young lady said. That's true. You have given it all away. That's the reason why we're not unified. Because there are so many religious denominations out here. Girl, my pastor said, I don't have to be baptized in the blood of Jesus. And my pastor said this, and my pastor said that. And so on and so on. It's all confusion. Okay, I'm a Muslim. Okay, I don't like Christian. Okay, I'm a black Hebrew Israelite, I'm different. Okay, and everybody, all this division out here. Okay, so this is what has happened to us as a people. It's right before your face. It's right here in Brooklyn. You got 7,100 evangelical and Pentecostal churches here in this city. It doesn't say how many other denominations of other churches that the city holds. That's a lot of churches. Okay? Lots of churches. Something is wrong. Why? Because the people throughout the whole entire world has been inundated, deluged, and their minds has been infested with religions. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you how that infestation is continuing to come about and how it came about. I want you to listen up. In the minds of the people throughout the whole entire world, Jewish writings control the thinking and the minds of the masses of people throughout the whole entire world. I'm going to tell you how they do it. It's very simple how they do it. You have millions and millions and millions of Christians living throughout the world. Is that correct? And they come in many different races, creeds, and color. And they speak many different dialects and languages. But they have two things in common. All Christians have two things in common. One, that they all are Christians. Two, that they read the Holy Bible. That's their book. That's their literature. Is that right? Under the one cover of the Holy Bible, you have two sets of books, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Is that right? Now, who wrote the Old Testament? Jewish writers. So in the minds of every Christian, whatever the Jews want to tell the Christian community, they put it in the Bible for you to read it. And then it comes in your mind. And you believe this stuff because you have been trained that the Bible is the Word of God. Don't tamper with this. See, this is back to Reverend Chicken Wing again. He's still out there operating. Okay? Now, let's move a little further. You have millions and millions of Muslims throughout the world, right? They all come in many different races, creeds, and color. And they speak many different languages and dialects. Okay? But they too have two things in common. One, they all are Muslims. Two, they all read the Holy Quran. That's their book. That's their literature. But inside of the Holy Quran, you have two sets of books. One, you have the Pentateuch, which is the Old Testament of the first 5 books of Moses, and you have Psalms. And then the second set of books is the 4 Christian Gospels are in the Quran. You see? Now, who wrote the Pentateuch of the Old Testament? Jewish writers again. So in the minds of every Muslim picking up their Quran, talking about Islam alaikum, they read this junk. And in their minds, the inundation of Jewish literature is coming into their mind. They believe that. You see that? They believe it because it was the, I'm going to tell you something else. It was the Jews who created Islam. They created Islam. Muslims will have a baby with a bonnet, if I tell them that. Little baby will drop out and have that bonnet right on the head, already coming out of the body. Okay? But in my book, I'm explaining all of that. So this is how they get Jewish writings capture the minds of every Muslim, of every Christian. Now you have, let's go a little further. You have millions of Jews, synagogue-going Jews now. Okay? The one that goes to the synagogue. Because Judaism, there's a lot of different departments of Jews. Okay? But anyway, the synagogue-going Jew, when he goes to the synagogue, okay, and you have Jews of all races, creeds, and color, again, speaking many different languages and dialects, okay? Now, when they go to the synagogue, they study out of a book called the Sefer HaTorah. Sefer means book, Ha means of, the Torah, which is the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, you have the first 5 books of Moses. It's called the Pentateuch and so forth and so on. Okay? But they too have 2 things in common. They all are Jews based on religion. I'm talking about religion now. Religious Jews. And they all read the Sefer HaTorah. That's their book. So in the Sefer HaTorah, they too are getting the same thing that the Christians are getting, the same thing that the Muslims are getting, and they believe it. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you something else. Very, very clever about that. Now listen up. See, Judaism is a religion. It's not very old. But now, what the Jews have done by placing this literature in the minds of every Christian, every Muslim, and the synagogue-going Jew, guess what he has done? He has created a BC Jew in your minds by you reading and believing these stories in the Old Testament. Okay? They tell you in the Old Testament that Nebuchadnezzar went into Judea, which is Jerusalem, and freed the Jews out of there and took them into Babylon. All this is biblical garbage. Something that never happened in human history. There's a difference. You got to know human history from fiction. Okay? So that's how the story goes, by way of tradition. And then this is supposed to have been done in 587 BC. And then in 536 BC, Cyrus II, the supposed Persian king, which has never been any Persian king, but we won't go into that, came into Babylon and freed the Jews out of Babylon and sent them back into Judea, which is Jerusalem, to build their second temple. Now this is tradition is saying that. Okay? Now, in the minds of every Christian, every Muslim, and every Jew out there, reading this story, then what have you created? You have created a BC Jew. That's what because of the story, because you believed it. Okay? Judaism cannot predate Solomon Bar Isaac called Rashi. Number one. Judaism cannot predate the First Crusade of 1096. Judaism cannot predate Moses' Maimon called Maimonides of the 12th and 13th century. You can't do that. See, this is historically incorrect if you try to do that. But now this is all in telling you about what has happened to us as a people, about how you cannot allow these religions to take over and control your life. Take your life back. Take your life back. We're going to get into questions and answers. Take your life back, okay? Don't allow them to take control of your life. You are a free-spirited human being. The only thing that you need to know is to have knowledge of who you are spiritually, what you were born with and given at the time of your birth by the Creator-Creator's force that used your mother and father as human instruments to give you your humanity. And with giving you your humanity, a religion was never given to you. Okay? That's your first step of understanding who you are spiritually that will liberate you. Okay? Now, let's go to the second step of our liberation. Okay? We're going to go to that second step. And the second step of our liberation is that we have to divest ourselves from all religions. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to divest ourselves from all religions. Anybody walk up to you and try to hand you a dead white man on the cross? Run if you don't want to hit him upside his head. Somebody tell you Assalamu alaikum, you tell them to go straight to hell. And take Assalamu alaikum with you. And alaikum salam also. Okay? Somebody walk up to you and tell you about you some kind of black Hebrew Israelite. Then you say, hey, mister, get away from me with that foolishness. And walk away. You don't need that. Why? because you know who you are spiritually. So you have to divest yourselves from all religions. Because if you continue with the religion, this is what all religions will do for you. It'll give you side effects. Give you side effects. That's true. Now, if you go to the doctor and you're sick, right? The doctor is going to give you some medicine. He's going to prescribe some medicine for you. And this synthetic medicine that's made into a factory that you're going to intake into your body is going to do what? Give you side effects. Is that right? Religions will do the same thing for you, give you side effects. The first side effect that these religions will give you is confusion. Confusion. What do I mean by that? You are confused as to who you are spiritually. You see? If you were not confused as to who you are spiritually, you see, then you wouldn't even embrace a religion in the first place. That's where your confusion come in. You're confused because you don't know who you are spiritually. So, and then this religion, like I said before, these religions were imposed upon you at a young, innocent age in your life as a child. And you couldn't say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be no Christian. I don't want to be no Muslim. I don't want to be no Black Hebrew Israelite. I don't want to be no Jew. I don't want to be no Buddhist. You couldn't do it. You were in your innocence. So that's the first side effect, is confusion. Okay? The second side effect, it limits your thinking. See, these religions will limit your thinking because you don't have to think when you embrace a religion. All you got to do is do what? Believe. Huh? All you have to do is believe. There's no thinking done. Okay? Everything is laid out for you in a package. When you go to church, you sit up there in the pew. Is that true?
That's right.
The whole package is laid out for you. All you got to do is believe it and have faith in it. Don't have to think. See, because, listen, belief does not give you knowledge. Because you be, I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. They ain't giving you no knowledge. Huh? Oh, I have faith in the Bible. That's not giving you knowledge. Huh? Don't give you knowledge. See? So therefore, you sit in the pew of these churches, and you sit there, not thinking, just like a mummy, or just like a robot. You're sitting there dead. Huh? And then the minister, he don't have to think either, because he's got a book full of lies that he can preach from and embellish the lie and add some more lies to it. Then he got an organist up there and a choir up there to sing, to get you all emotional aroused and making you feeling good. You say, oh, girl, I had the best time in church today I ever had. Now, what did the minister say? I don't know what he said, but I sure felt good. You see, that's got to stop. You see? Now, it limits your thinking. Now, you allow these ministers to tell you that a woman was born from the rib of a man. Huh? Why would you let him tell you that and you don't even question? Say, look, Reverend Chicken Wing. That's no proof of that. I didn't come from no rib of a man. Huh? Now why would you tell me that lie? And you sit there and you don't say nothing. He just tell you anything. Huh? Then they tell these Muslims, they say, tell the Muslims, say, Abraham, and they tell the Jews and the Black Hebrews, Abraham was 100 years old, and he woke up one morning, he was horny. And he asked Sarah, said, Sarah, I want to have a baby with you. She said, man, I'm 85 years old. I done pulled the zip on it many, many years ago. Okay? So you go and get Hagar, your Egyptian handmaiden. Okay, this is how the story goes. And she will have a baby for you. So here's a man, 80, 100 years old, got a penis look like a chitlin. But he's going now to get Hagar to give up a baby to Hagar, right? And out comes Ishmael. You know, the Muslims want to say Ishmael. They love to say, oh, Ishmael. You know, oh man, please get away from me, that gentleman. You know, and you know the story. Ishmael's supposed to be the progenitor of the Muslims, and it goes on and on and on. Okay, and they allow people and these religions and these different preachers and these different imams to tell them all of these lies without even questioning them. Huh? There's something wrong with that. Okay? You can't do that. And then you remember Heaven's Gates, that group called the Heaven's Gates?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They were following an old, constipated looking white man. You remember that? And this old white man told these brothers and white folk, men, to cut their penis off. You remember that? Now, hold it. You mean to tell me they went and got them a great big old knife, big old sharp butcher knife, took their penis out and whacked it off? Huh? Can't think, limit your thinking. You mean to tell me you gonna allow somebody to come up and tell you to cut your Johnson off? Huh? How you gonna do that? And you sit up there and do it. And when the police found these fools dead, they pulled back the blanket. Then these guys sitting up there penniless. Johnson's had been cut off. Okay? You can't tell me to cut my penis off. It's all I got. I can't, you know, I'm trying to hold on, do the best I can. And now you want me to cut it off. No, sir. Okay? So, limit your thinking.
That's right.
They tell you all this food. Jim Jones got those people down there and gave him some Kool-Aid. They were following this white boy because he looked like Jesus. He turned on him and said, okay, I'm gonna kill all you bastards. And he started giving them Kool-Aid. See, so these religions limits your thinking. That's the second side effect. It limits your thinking. Then the third side effect is animation. What do you mean by animation? On Christmas time, they tell you, these preachers tell you that Jesus was born in a manger. That his mother and father, Mary and Joseph, went into Bethlehem. And the innkeeper said, there's no room for you in the inn. So he went out in the wilderness and he found a barn and they made a manger out of it for the baby Jesus. Now, and 3 wise men appeared from the east bearing gifts to the king. This is what they tell you. Now what happens to you sitting in the pews listening to that story? You begin to animate that. Huh? You begin to animate that. It becomes real to you because you have put it into your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is right here. Okay? And then from your subconscious mind, it superimposes on you into your life. Like this little boy on this picture. This little boy on this picture. This image right here is being superimposed into his subconscious mind. Okay? When he closes his eyes to pray, who does he see? Huh? He see this white man. That's his God. Okay? And another thing, when you know who you are spiritually, what you were born with spiritually, you don't have to pray. Praying is a form of begging. You don't have to pray, oh Lord, in the name of Jesus, I want you to send me a car. I need a car. You can pray all you want to, But won't be no knock on that door. And you open the door, and they say, I have your car waiting for you at the curb. Here's the keys. You can forget that. See, so you be praying for the rest of your life and having the biggest transfer that you can find. You may as well have a transfer tattooed in your palm of your hand. So when you get on the bus, you show it and keep going. You're going to be praying for a car. Okay? Praying is a form of begging. It's a waste of time. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something else. The fourth fear to this, the side effects is fear. Okay? They tell you that if you do not believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, you're going to die and go to hell. So they tell you, oh, I got to get myself right with the Lord. See, now you go to a funeral, boy, oh, Reverend Chickenwing got you. Okay? Because here you sitting up in the funeral looking at a dead body in a casket. Okay? He got you then. He said, okay, let me put it on. So now, listen, you got to get yourself together before you be in this box here. Okay? You got to get together with the Lord, Jesus Christ. Huh? And he scares the hell out of you. And first thing you do when you leave out of there, you're going to go down to Chickenwing, I'm here. let me join the church. Give me a cross. Quick. You see? This is really, this is what they, is that true?
Yes,
yes, it's true. So you don't need to pray. It's a form of begging. You don't need that in your life. You see? So that is the second step of our liberation. We have to divest ourselves from all religions. Okay? Because you don't know nothing about these religions anyway. A woman came up to me after a lecture. She says, Dr. Williams. I said, yes. She said, I'm a Christian. I said, okay. See, I have no right to tell you not to be a Christian. That's not my message. You can be a Christian. You were born a free human being. You can divest your spirituality that was given to you free into a dog. I can't control that. That's your choice. You see that? So I have no right to tell you not to be a Muslim. If you want to be a Muslim, I'm going to say Islam alaikum, fine. Don't let me stop you. You want to be a black Hebrew Israelite? Beautiful. You got it. Okay? So she told me, said, Dr. Williams, I am a Christian. I said, okay. And I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I said, okay. I said, is this your guy? Pointing to this dead white man here. I said, this your savior? She said, yes, that's my savior. I said, now, does he look like you or any member of your family? And startled, the woman was startled. She says, no. I said, then why are you worshiping something that don't look like you? Huh? And she had to stand back and think for a moment. I said, now, do you go to church? She said, yes. I said, what's the name of your minister? She said, his name is T.T. Teeny Weeny. I said, now, Reverend Teeny Weeny, does this image look like Reverend Teeny Weeny? She says, no. Or any member of his family? She said, no. I said, then why is he encouraging you to bow down to this dead white man on the cross? And it took her back. She couldn't answer that. So we have to think. You're worshiping something that don't even look like you. You know nothing about it. Another woman came up to me, told me that she was a Christian. I said, okay. I said, now, let me ask you some questions about this. She says, okay. I says, beyond your belief in Christianity, beyond your belief that a man walked the earth by the name of Jesus Christ, beyond what the Bible that you believe in has been telling you, what do you know about Christianity that's based on facts? This big silence came over. She said, Yoo-hoo, are you there? And she couldn't answer me. She don't know. I was on television with a white minister debating him about Christianity some years back. Old Reverend David M. Cheesecracker. Old Reverend Cheesecracker, he couldn't do nothing with me. And after we got off the air, he says, Brother Williams, I said, please don't call me brother. I'm not your brother, but what is it that you want? He says, you should be a Christian. I said, okay. I said, what advantage will Christianity and me being a Christian, what will it give me? Okay. He says, it will make you humble, okay? It will make you docile. It will make you love everybody. It will make you do good deeds. And it will make you a happy, decent man, that you can get along with all of mankind. I said, okay, I'll tell you what you do, Reverend Cheesecracker, is this. If you take exactly what you told me, and I want you to teach every white man and every white woman and every white child on earth about this lovely, beautiful Christianity that will make you humble, docile, not want to kill nobody and turn the other cheek and all that. If I see the white race changing, then I, Walter Williams, will give me the biggest cross and the deadest white man I can find, put it around my neck, and I'll be a Christian. He walked away and left me alone. He better leave me alone. Okay? So we have to think about what we are doing. Divest yourselves from all religions. You don't need religions in your life. It's a waste of your time. Dispose of the Bible. Dispose of this dead white man on the cross. Dispose of Christianity. All these religions should be disposed of. Dispose of God. You don't need that in your life. Divest yourself from all that. Then you become free. That's your second step in your liberation. Okay? Now, are we together on the first two? Now, I'm going to question you all. At the end of my lecture, I'm going to ask you, I want you to prepare. What are the 3 liberating steps for us Africans living in America and throughout the world? And you better have some answers. If you don't, then I got my boys waiting outside. They're going to come in here and they're going to start shooting. No. But anyway, let's go into the 3rd step of our African liberation. The 3rd step, very important also, mean that we have to find our way back to ancient Egypt. Okay? To find our way back to ancient Egypt, because ancient Egypt is lying in the continent of Africa unclaimed. The descendants of the ancient Egyptians are not claiming ancient Egypt. Okay? Because the descendants are walking around calling themselves Ethiopians, calling themselves Sudanese, calling themselves Nubians, calling themselves Negroes, calling themselves blacks, calling themselves African Americans, and calling each other niggers, and it goes on and on. You see that? So therefore, with all these names that's not connected with the resurrection of ancient Egypt in our race of people in our African community, then ancient Egypt is lying unclaimed in the continent of Africa at this very moment that I'm talking to you. Now, I wrote a paper called From Pharaoh to Negro. So anybody who don't have this paper, you can get it during the break and other literature that I may have to hand out. But From Pharaoh to Negro, I wrote this article back in 1990 or 91 for a Chicago newspaper. Okay, I don't want you to read it now, I just want you to be aware of it. I don't want you to read it now, I want you all to be aware of it. Okay? And then, let's turn to the second page. it says here how Negroes got religion. Okay? And you see old Massa there, don't you? The plantation boss, the old slave plantation boss, old Massa. Huh? And who's down on his knees down there and say, Yassa? Who's that saying Yassa? Come on. Huh? No. The preacher. He told him, take this Bible and go out and preach it among your people, didn't he? Huh? And what did he say? Yassa. Okay. That's it. That's the picture. There it is, right before your face. Huh? Right there. See? Now, you remember that little boy? Go back to this second handout. Remember that little boy in Brooklyn, right here in Brooklyn? About he's praying to his God? That Jesus Christ up there, that white man up there? Huh? You remember that? If his parents had have told him that he was descendants of the greatest people that has ever walked this earth, known to us today in history as the ancient Egyptians, he would not be sitting there bound down to a dead image, talking about Jesus Christ. He would be doing what? He'd be looking just like this little boy. This is a little boy too now. But what is he doing? He's looking into a mirror. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And what is looking back at him? Come on, what's looking back at him? Who he is, not us. Because we still are ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians are still here on earth. Not were here on earth. Still is on earth. Okay? So now, what does the caption say up there? Read it never out loud.
If 4 million Negroes can only get to know themselves, to know that in them is a sovereign power, is an authority that is absolute, then in the next 24 hours, we would have a new race.
Who said that?
Marcus Garvey.
Marcus Garvey. Back in the 20s, before you and I were born. Okay? He said this. Here it is before your face. You have to resurrect ancient Egypt, the greatest people that has ever walked this earth, known to us today in history as the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors. And we allow, out of ignorance, not your fault, until you leave this lecture. And if you don't call yourself and identify yourself as an ancient Egyptian, then it's your fault. Prior to you coming in here, you have an excuse. I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I knew that there was ancient Egyptian, but it wasn't on my consciousness. Why? It's not on your consciousness because the school system and the system that we live in taught us away from it. They don't want you to be an ancient Egyptian. Okay? I was giving a lecture in Chicago to the Black Physicians Association of Cook County Hospital one February. I think it was about 1997. And I told the doctors there, group of African doctors, descendants of the ancient Egyptians, because I don't look at our people as being African Americans. If you can say that I'm an African American, why can't you say I'm an African ancient Egyptian? Same effort, same words, okay? So I told them, I said, now, instead of saying that you have an organization called the Black Physicians Association of Cook County Hospital, name it the Imhotep Physician Association of Cook County Hospital. And one of the doctors asked me, said, why should we do that? I said, this will give you a distinction, number one. Number two, it will you'll be resurrecting your ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. And he said, well, how do you know that we are ancient Egyptians? Good. Now, do not call yourselves Egyptians. Now, that's the key. Don't say that. You call yourself an ancient Egyptian. Because what is the qualification for you being an ancient Egyptian is what? You have to be African. If you're not an African, you cannot be an ancient Egyptian. I wear a sweatshirt and a t-shirt, according to the weather. And it has a big picture of King Tut, or the pyramids, or the Sphinx, or whatever the case might be. On the front of that t-shirt, it says, I love my African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. If I turn around, it says the same thing on my back. And last month, coming out of L.A., my wife and I was going in the L.A. airport, and this white woman said, oh, I love your t-shirt. I said, oh, thank you. I get that all the time from white folks and a few of us. But she says, I guess we all are, aren't we? I said, oh, in my mind. I said, no, miss. I said, you are a European, and I am an African, and you cannot be one with me. In order to be one with me, you have to be an African. I said, but it's a nice try anyway. And I walked away. It's over with. See? And left her with a big pie sliding down her face. Huh? Don't, if I said, oh, I love my African American ancestors, okay, she wouldn't say a damn thing to me. Nothing. Huh? Because she can't relate to herself being an African American. See, but they all want to get in on ancient Egypt. Okay? Now don't allow what you see in Las Vegas at the Hotel Luxor. Okay? All those white statues out there. That's Greek. And the Ptolemaic Greeks. And the Roman invaders of ancient Egypt. No. They tried to emulate our ancestors by dressing like them, posing like them with the hieroglyphics and ankhs and things, and so forth and so on. So by us being taught away from that, you're not aware of what is happening to our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. See, so don't be fooled by that. Remember, do not call yourself an Egyptian. Call yourself an ancient Egyptian, because you have to be an African to be an ancient Egyptian. Very simple. You got that? Now, that's the third form of our liberation, the third step. Because as you know, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, civilized this whole entire universe and whole entire planet. Okay? They did it because they were used as human instruments to do that. Just like your mother and father was used as human instruments to bring forth each and every one of you and us in this particular auditorium as into this world as human beings. The universe used our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, to bring forth all of civilization for all of mankind. Because when you study ancient Egyptian history, it tells you that the ancient Egyptians had the world's first and oldest civilization on earth. Okay? During the time of antiquity, they were the only literate people living on earth. The only literate people. Okay? Why? Because they created and invented a writing system. And they, within that three forms of writing that they created, which is one, is the Medu Neter hieroglyphics, which has never been deciphered. And I have that in my book on page 149 on historical origin of Christianity. That why the Medu Neter hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. Okay? And then they have the hieratic and the Demotic phonetic alphabet. And when an alphabet is created, it can only be created one time. That's it. That's it. Like the chair. Whoever created the chair, it came through the culture of our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, all furniture. Anything that you use and you call yourself in civilized society came from the ancient Egyptian. The chair can only be invented one time. That's it. And you can take that chair and make a couch out of it, but you can't invent another chair, because the chair is a chair is a chair is a chair. That's it. See? You have to know something about our ancestors. Now, they tell you that the Greeks studied with the ancient Egyptians. That's not true. It's not true. Why? Because the Greeks never had no institution. They were illiterate. That's correct. Illiterate. In order for you to have an institution, you have to have a writing system. You can't go to an institute and say, I'm in this institute, can you read and write? No, I can't. How are you going to have an institute and you can't read and write? don't have no writing system. So they tell you about a Socrates, supposed to be the teacher of Plato, and Plato's supposed to be the teacher of Aristotle, and they tell you about Herodotus, they tell you about Pythagoras, and they tell you about Homer, and they tell you about Solon, and it goes on and on with these Greek names, right? Those names never existed as human beings. Never existed. They tell you that Aristotle was the teacher of Alexander, and Alexander built a library called the Great Library of Egypt. That's not true. That Aristotle wrote hundreds of books. That's not true. That Herodotus was the father of history for the Europeans. That's not true. That Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. Never been a Homer. That's not true. The Iliad and the Odyssey is fiction. Why am I saying this? Because the Greeks had no alphabet. That's my question.
You derived from the Africans.
Well, I'm going to tell you how the Europeans, starting with the Greeks, got an alphabet. Very simple. When Alexander the Greek came into Egypt, he forced the Greek language on our ancestors. It's in my book. And upon learning that Greek language, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, applied an alphabet to that language. You see that? So the Greeks never had an alphabet. It was the Greek language that our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, applied an alphabet to. You see? And as a misnomer today, they say, oh, this is the Greek alphabet. The Greeks never had an alphabet. They never had no institution. Europeans did not develop in Europe. Why? They had no alphabet. They had no institution. They had no system of writing. So how could you develop in Europe? You know where they developed? They developed in Africa. Being taught by the African scholars at the Church of Hagia Sophia. Okay? Now my wife wrote a chapter in this book on what happened to the Church of Hagia Sophia. Very, very important. In the Historical Origin of Christianity book, I'm talking about the Church of Hagia Sophia. The Church of Hagia Sophia is the world's first Christian church ever built on earth, and the world's first university that was built for the Europeans. That's where they began their learning from. Those African scholars. And it was the African scholars and architects and builders who built the Church of Hagia Sophia. And all your buildings around the world takes off as a design from that prototype building of the Hagia Sophia. You have to know history. This is what has happened to us as a people. We do not know history. You have to know world history. I know John Henry Clark, Dr. John Henry Clark, used to tell us, he said, you have to know European history in order for you to know our history. That's true. Okay? That's true. What did I do? What did I do? This image was created by our Coptic Egyptian ancestors. Christianity, you all, listen up, was created not for us. It was created for the Europeans. Not for us. For the Europeans. You see? And this book lays it out. And the continuation of Christianity goes into this book until you run into Islam. Okay? So you have to know history. This image was created there in Egypt by our Coptic Egyptian ancestors. See? So we have to resurrect ancient Egypt. We have to begin to call ourselves not African Americans anymore. Not black people. That's horrible. Black people. I can't stand it. Make me puke. Black people. African Americans. What is that anyway? What the hell is an African American? There's no ethnicity there. You can't go to the world map and pick out Negro land. You can't go to the world map and pick out black man's land. You can't go to the world map and pick out African American land. There's no ethnicity there. So getting back to this doctor at the Cook County Hospital, he said, how do you know that we are descendants of the ancient Egyptians? I said, okay. I said, now, do you believe that a people, an African people living in the continent of Africa, that is known to us today as the ancient Egyptians, do you believe that they existed? He says, yes. I said, do you believe during the time of antiquity that a people living on earth, during the time of antiquity, as the Greeks and the Romans? He says, yes. Do you believe that there was a people or peoples living on earth that during the time of antiquity, which means ancient time, by the name of the Chinese and the people of India? He says, yes. I said, okay, let's take a little inventory here. Today, at this very moment that I'm talking to you, you have the descendants of the Greeks walking the earth. Is that right? And what do they call themselves? Greeks. You have the Roman descendants walking the earth today calling themselves Italians. Is that right? Okay? And you have the Chinese descendants walking the earth and the Indian descendants walking the earth of India saying that I'm a Chinese, I'm an Indian of India descendant. Is that correct?
Correct.
The question I asked the doctor, I said, now where is the descendants of the ancient Egyptians? Did they evaporate? Huh? Did they disappear? Where are they? Tell me, where are they? You all? You know what you should be saying now? Here I am. Huh? But you're not saying anything because you've been torn away from me. There you are, right here. I'm looking at you right there. The descendants of the greatest people that has ever walked this earth. I'm sitting in this audience at this very moment that I'm giving this lecture. Descendants of the greatest people that have ever walked this earth, the ancient Egyptians. Claim it. Okay? That's your third step of liberation. So what I have done today, you remember Frankenstein?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Igor? Everybody knows the Frankenstein and Igor story, right? Now, I am Igor. And what old Igor did is that he went down into the dungeon, didn't he? And he found Frankenstein laying on a big block of ice, right? Right? Okay. And he took electric prod and he stuck in the side of that ice and the side of Frankenstein, right? And he jolted Frankenstein. Frankenstein laying up down there with great big iron shoes on, bolts running through his head. You know what I mean? Looking like Frankenstein. You know? And the music, and the ice began to break, and you see those big old iron shoes begin to move. Frankenstein came alive. He was dead down there, wasn't he? Who woke him up? Igor. Is that right? Frankenstein got up and he began to walk out of the dungeon. Because what happened to Igor? Why did he want to get Frankenstein? Because the townspeople had been making fun of him, throwing rocks at him because he was deformed and not pleasant to look at. They made fun of, Igor, we throw a rock at him. See? So he got him down and got Frankenstein to get those people. Okay? Don't fix them. Okay? So Frankenstein, he walked, he was all, he came up out of the dungeon and he got to the streets. People said, oh, Frankenstein! It was started running, right? So I am like Igor. I, today, came to Brooklyn, New York, to go into the depths of your mind, to resurrect you and wake you up. Okay? So right now I'm going to end my lecture, and we're going to go into the questions and answer session. Okay?
All right.
So if you want to give me an applause, you can do that. So, we're going to go into the questions and answer session, but don't leave, because we have another lecture coming up right after we have a break. And of course, I have books here. These two books are on sale: The Historical Origin of Christianity and The Historical Origin of Islam. And a lot of the things I was talking about in the lecture is in these two books. So if you want to buy these books, you can. Be fine. But anyway, we're going to now go into the questions and answer session. Anybody have a question? Okay, so now we're going to go into the questions and answer session. And I see the young lady back here have raised her hand. Yes, young lady.
Yeah, all of these characters in the Bible, we know we can find in ancient Egyptian. And I'm talking about the ones that perished or that moved over. What come, I want to ask you, have they ever found Abraham, bones, remnants? They found a grave, any of them? I mean, there's thousands of them in that book. Find me one.
Okay.
Find me one.
Well,
The timeline is right there with King Tut.
well,
Right there with some of them in that day. Why can't we can find everybody except these other people?
there's never been an Abraham.
I know that.
Okay.
But they
So
find
you,
anybody.
you can't find something that's never been there.
Bring that to the Christianity
Huh?
line.
Do what now?
They need to know that it don't exist with proof.
No, they're not going to. They're going to tell you that. The Jews are telling you that now. I got literature right here that will tell you from the Jews to tell you that there is no Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Gideon, Sarah, Solomon, okay, and David never existed. There's a rabbi right here in New York City by the name of S. David Sperling, who wrote a book called The Original Torah. And in that book, he says there's never been an Abraham.
I'm with you, brother. We need to break it down.
Okay? I'm letting the white folks are breaking it down. Now, I've been telling you this for years. Okay? So now, who all didn't believe me, I'm turning you over to white people. Okay? See, since you've been brainwashed by European and the system that we live in, they're now saying that there's no record of a Moses in Egypt. There's no record of 10 biblical plagues ever occurring in Egypt. And there's no record of the Exodus. And there's no record of slaves building the pyramid. I got it right here, literature. And Joshua and the Israelites did not wander for 40 days and 40 nights until they found the promised land of Jerusalem. Okay? They say all that's not true. Okay? So therefore, if in order to have Judaism to be an authentic human religion coming out of a geographical land area on earth, in the confines of the geographical land area, you'll have people living there, and issuing from the culture of those people living there, a religion comes up called Judaism. You don't have that, because Judaism is a paper religion. That's all it is. I had to explain that one day. But anyway, so therefore, if you do not have a Moses, see, Moses has got to be put into a basket as a baby. This is how tradition says, and floating down the Nile River, and the Pharaoh's daughter retrieving the basket and taking the baby Moses out of the basket, raising the baby Moses in the house of the Pharaoh. That's how it goes. And then when he got to be an adult, he found out that the Pharaoh and the ancient Egyptians were holding his people in bondage. Is that right? And 10 biblical plagues came upon the Egyptians, ancient Egyptians. And the Red Sea parted, and they had an Exodus. All that garbage, right? The Jews have said that never happened. See? So now, in order to have, the founder of Judaism is Moses. Is that right? And Moses has got to float down that Nile River. They said they don't have no record of that. So therefore, listen to this now. If there's no Moses, and Moses is supposed to be the founder of Judaism, then that makes Judaism do what? Collapse. It collapsed. Right before your eyes. Boom. Now every year the Jews practice and celebrate what they call the Passover. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, it is based on slaves building the pyramid, Jewish slaves. It's based on, their Passover is based on the 10 biblical plagues happening in Egypt. The Passover is based on the Exodus out of Egypt. And the Passover is based on wandering for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness until Joshua found the promised land, right? So therefore, if none of this happened, the Jews said none of this happened, then the Passover that they're practicing is invalid. You see that? See? So now, but see, the Jews have been saying this for going on 16 years now. You see? And all the people in the African community and a lot of white folk, they don't realize what has happened. The Jews are saying that these things never happened. So when this young lady tells me that she's from Black Hebrew Israel, I said, look, young lady, you're way behind time. The Jews have said that just never happened, so you can cut all that out. Okay? You see that? So therefore, you see, if that was an Abraham, getting back to your question, if that was an Abraham, don't you think they would have a celebration to honor Abraham's at his grave site and Sarah's grave site every year? They don't have that because there's nothing there. It's nothing there. It's fiction. It's put into the minds of the people all over the world. Okay? It's inundated into their thinking by way of these various religions, by way of the literature that's connected to these religions, is the Old Testament, in the Holy Bible for the Christians, and the Quran for the Muslims, and in the Sefer HaTorah for the Jews, and so forth and so on. You see? Like I told you, going back to what I'm telling you, like I told you earlier, a Jew is created in the minds of the people. There's never been no human Jews walking around, living in Jerusalem and all that old kind of stuff like that. It's all in the story that they fed to you, and you believed it. So therefore, you, in your belief, you have did what? You have animated. It goes back to what I was telling you about the third side effect of animation. Okay? So, wake up, young man.
My question, I just want to make a statement first.
Talk a little loud.
My statement is that I've studied your works and many other scholars, and from the Egyptian perspective, as far as the woman being first, because Africa itself is a matriarchy. The system in which we, as black African descendants in this country, exist, the patriarchy system, the religion, and everything that you explained, I know of. My question is, how does a black man knowledgeable of himself know that I'm a descendant of these ancient Egyptians, which actually means blacks, the word Egyptian, the color of the skin? How does a man who's well informed of all the things that most people don't know, have a woman gravitate to him? Because this system is a patriarchy, a male-dominated religion, culture, society. So how do you get a woman, an African woman, to gravitate to you? How do you inform her?
Well, first you have to inform yourself and know something and put something inside of you, okay, in order for you to attract something. If you're empty inside, I'm not saying you're empty, I'm not saying that about you. If an individual is empty inside, you're going to attract emptiness, okay? Like, L-I-K-E, attracts like, L-I-K-E, okay? My wife and I are like kind. I had an ancient Egyptian museum for 11 years in Chicago. She went to Egypt, okay, and coming back from Egypt, she asked her leader of the tour to give her a name of an individual, a telephone number of an individual that she can study with in Chicago, and they gave her Jacob Carruthers. And she went to work one day, and she wanted to call Carruthers because she wanted to set up a class schedule with him. And she left a number at home. And by me having an ancient Egyptian museum, and she asked for the Kemetic Institute. But there's no such thing as a Kemetic Institute because you cannot put an institute inside of another man's institution. That's what Carruthers had did. So there's no listing for that. So she said, the operator said, I don't have a listing for no Kemetic Institute. So my wife said, well, do you have anything with ancient Egypt? She says, oh yes, I have one at 3849 South Michigan Avenue. She said, well, give me that number. And she called that number. And she left her name and phone number on the machine, and I called her back. And we talked for 3 hours. Okay? Because at that time, I won't go into all that, but at that time I was open. I was available. Okay? I'll put it like that. Okay? And so this is how we met. And I talked to her, and then come to find out I was going to Egypt that August, and she got back the month before, July. You see? So I said, well, look, I've never been to Egypt. That was in 1990, what was it, 92. And I said, I've never been to Egypt, and so she gave me some pointers, what to do and what not to do. But I made a mistake and started drinking some of the milk and stuff. I mean, ate some ice cream over there and got sick. You know. So anyway, I called her and we talked for 3 hours, and then I missed a day, and I called her that Wednesday. We talked another 3 hours, and then I invited her down to the museum for that weekend. You see, and she came down on my birthday. That's how we met, on my birthday. I was sitting on the porch of the museum. She came up to the gate, and I said, Arnetta? She said, yeah. I said, come up. So she came up and showed around the museum, and long story short, I said, can you come back next week? She said, yes, I can come back next week. And so we talked all during that week, because I was only open on Saturdays and Sundays. So we talked, every time we talked for 2 and 3 and 4 hours at a time. So I was beginning to like this chick, you know. So anyway, she came back the second week, and then I asked her, can you come back the third week? She said, no, I'm going to be out of town. But anyway, that's how we met. But why? Because we had like minds. There was an attraction there. So you can't force. Now, a lot of my students that I teach, I'm teaching them historical origin of these various religions. And they say, well, my wife or my girlfriend is a Christian, and she don't want me to attend these classes. I said, well, you don't have to come. It's up to you. You know, I said, see, you're a free-willed human being, and you shouldn't. But she should get this knowledge. She said, no, I was going to say that. She's a free-willed human being too. She wants to go to church. She has the right to go to church. She has the right to go to church if that's what she wants to do. You have no right to tell her not to go to church, and she has no right to tell you not to come to my classes. Huh? She has no right to do that. See? So if there's a confliction between you and your mate or whatever, then she has a right to do what she wants to do, and you have a right to do what you want to do. And you both can be happy. Just don't tell me to give me a cross. I'm not going to get no cross. See? If you want to get a cross, 2 or 3 of them, fine. Put it all around your neck. But don't bother me with that. And I have a right to not to be bothered with it. As long as I'm not telling you not to put that cross around your neck. If you want to do that, fine. So that would be my answer to you. Now, is that you have a relationship where there's a conflict there or what?
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer. She has no right to tell you not to do or not to study and expand your knowledge. You have that human right. You owe that to yourself. But you do not have a right to impose anything on her.
I don't.
Because you're not her creator. You didn't create her.
She imposes it on me.
But then you tell her don't do that. That's wrong. Okay, who's next? Any more? I can't see. Okay, who's next? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have 2 questions. My first question is.
Speak a little louder.
Okay, my first question is about prayer. Now, coming from a Christian background and moving away from that, and now kind of in what I call limbo, I don't see prayer as begging. I more see it as, I don't know. I use prayer as a way to bring up my higher self, or bring voice to my thoughts that I have no way of, or are not sure how to get them answered. You know, questions that aren't answered that you need answers to kind of find fulfillment. And I feel like by praying, I'm letting my ancestors know and letting God know how I feel, so maybe those questions can come, the answers can come back to me. So I guess my question is, what is prayer? I mean, besides, you know, is there a way to define prayer other than begging? I mean, is it a higher spiritual manifestation when you pray? And then my other question is...
No, just deal with that one. Then you can go into the next one. See, because we don't get lost in the cracks. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. Praying is a form of begging. When you know who you are spiritually, what was given to you at the time of your birth, how your pineal gland, which is your human function that keeps you in consciousness, the bottom of that is your nostrils that keeps you alive, your body with air and so forth, keeps you in consciousness, and keeps you in contact with the universe, okay? That's how you are contacting the universe. When you decide, now, do you have a car? Okay. The day that you decided you want a car, did you pray for that car? Or did you made up your mind that you wanted? Is that correct? Is that right? But anyway, you wanted a car. No matter how you got it, you wanted that car, right? Okay. So therefore, you have put in a request. You made a statement. I want a car. I need a car. Is that right? Okay. And the car was manifested in your life by way of your mother giving you a car as a gift. Is that right? Right. Now, so therefore, what you did was contact the universe first. Okay? The universe gave you what you asked it for. Okay? Had nothing to do with God. You ever hear that little voice that's inside of you that tells you things? Religion substitute that little voice inside of the human being as God. See? That's what they substitute that for. They substitute that little voice as being, oh, that's God. You're praying to God. No, you're not. You're making a statement within your own humanity that's connected to the universe, the things that you want to manifest in your life in its physical form.
Okay.
You see that?
So by me praying, I'm just speaking things into existence. Eventually I will come in contact, or they'll manifest themselves.
If you get up to do something to get them, to work toward it, you just can't sit there and say, I'm going to pray until a knock come on the door and say, your car's outside. Right. You got to...
So it's part, it's manifestation and action.
Huh?
Manifestation and action.
Right.
Okay.
You have to... Another, you want to add something to that?
Well, I was thinking, in her particular case, she is trying to make a connection with her ancestors. I think I heard you say that.
That's part of it.
Okay. Sending and receiving. And I was thinking that you were going to go into the sending and the receiving of messages from the universe, between each other, or what have you, in order to make that connection. So I think, I don't know if prayer is the right word. Sometimes, we talk about meditation, but I think there's more of a focus in here when we get still and be quiet, okay, to put it in practical terms. Because I think some of us have different ideas about what prayer is, what meditation is, but she's really trying to make a connection there.
Okay.
That's what I would add. And I would say that that's a necessary thing for us, to be still, be quiet, and clarify our thoughts, and speak our thoughts, and receive something back.
Right. Because to answer whatever you want, all you got to do is make up your mind that this is what I want. Declare what you want, and the universe will send it back to you in its physical form.
If you need it, right?
If you want it.
If you want it.
Right. Okay. And if you want it, then you will need it. Some people, if you're in need of something, then you want that. Okay. So it's going to come back to you if you send the message out. And see, the religion say, oh, that's prayer. And the message that you, the human being, is now this message that you're sending to the universe is going through your pineal gland. That's the conduit that sends the messages. That's the conduit that gives you back the message from the universe, the answer. You see that? And they call that, they call that, the religion people, they say that's God. See? Gives you a God that you can't see. It's invisible. God is omnipotent. See? So your mind is omnipotent because the universe goes off into infinity.
I will make one other comment. As we've said before, God becomes abstract and impersonal. But when we're dealing with our ancestors, those are the people that we've known and we're looking to continue to give us guidance beyond the physical realm. So I think the ancestors, she's on the right track with that, as opposed to something that's impersonal
Correct.
Can I just add to that? That might help her?
Yeah.
This young man will add something. Go ahead.
I think in order for her to be more connected to who you really are, you need to look into the goddess Ma'at. Its teachings are more in tune with the laws of African people. I don't mean laws, but that's how it's presented. It's a way of life. The principles.
No, that's the negative principle.
Yeah, the negative
Yeah,
principles.
that's not what he's talking about.
That's what we look up on Nayah and Osiris and our ancestors, and we can do that. But we can also look up on our personal ancestors to make that personal connection.
Yes, and what we're talking about here is a personal thing for a human being. It has nothing to do with anything that's outside of that human being's humanity. So she's saying, how do I use my humanity to contact the universe for the thing that I want, or whatever the case might be? That's something that's done inside. You see, that goes back to the first step of liberation, knowing who you are spiritually, and everything that the answers that I have given you for that answer, and the answer that my wife Arnetta has given you for that answer, and you can collectively take those answers. And do you understand what we're saying to you? Mm-hmm. Okay, now what's your second question?
I just wanted you to explain a little bit about the Hasidic Jews, basic, the ones that I guess they're all over, mainly here in Brooklyn, like in certain pockets and sections. I've always been fascinated about their separation from traditional, like the,
Who are you talking about now?
Hasidic Jews.
Oh, Hasidic Jews, okay. Well, like I said before, Judaism, first place, in order for you to understand your question, or any question pertaining to the Jews, you have to know the historical origin of Judaism. Or if you want to know about Christianity, you have to know the historical origin of Christianity. If you don't know anything about Muslim or Islam, you have to know the historical origin of Islam. You have to know the historical origin of anything. Okay? Now.
And let me just say this, I'm sorry. I know that's a vague question. I mean, that's a wide open question. I guess I could narrow it down in terms of my specific focus. But
okay.
I'll just let you.
No, go ahead. What is
no, because I really don't have a specific. That's the thing. That's why it's a wide open question. So I guess you can just give me whatever.
No, when you said Hasidic, what is it that you really want to know? See, I can't answer your question unless you tell me exactly, pinpoint it down.
What is their basis for the separation and the complete lifestyle they have within their own community setting? What dictates them besides their, the laws and their religion that make them keep unto themselves, basically looking at other people as, Gentile, you know what I mean? Like basically that they don't feel the need to be
part of it.
Of other human people, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's set up on purpose. That's the mysticism that they want to portray to the masses of the people around the world, that there's something different. You see, in the Old Testament, they tell you that you should love the Jews, or love the God of the Jews, in order for you to be blessed, etc., etc. So they walk around thinking that there's something special. This is all part of the hype, you see? So, and they're fooled too now, because they believe the story, you see? But see, the real deal comes down to this. Judaism is a paper religion, has nothing to do with human beings starting out now, has nothing to do with human beings living in a certain geographical land area, and issuing from that geographical land area a people and a religion called Judaism. No, Judaism is based on narrative stories put into the minds of the Christian, Muslim, and the synagogue-going Jew. So what they have done, they have created a world based on the Bible stories. You see that? They have done, because they have the money to do that. Because Judaism is a form of capitalism. That's your link. It's a form of capitalism. Judaism is the religion of the capitalists. You see? But now, let's break that down. All capitalists are not Jews. Okay? The Rockefeller family, by them being a capitalist, they are what? Jews. But they are, religiously, they are Baptist Christians, the Rockefellers. Okay? Now, let's go to the Rothschilds. The Rothschild family are Jews, but they don't go to the synagogue. See, they could give less than a damn about all those rituals. That's for the fools and the lames out there. You ever heard of George Soros? You remember, anybody heard of George Soros, the billionaire that put up money to try to defeat Bush? Okay. He was interviewed on 60 Minutes, and George Wallace interviewed him. Mike Wallace, and George Wallace was the segregationist, I'm sorry. Anyway, Mike Wallace interviewed him, and he asked him, said, Mr. Soros, do you believe in God? He says, no, I don't believe in no God. He said, if I believe in God, I can't do what I do. Huh? See, believing in God is for the lames, for the squares. He's one of the cats. You see what I mean? See, so you remember the first prime minister of the illegal state of Israel was named David Ben-Gurion, right? David Ben-Gurion was an atheist. He didn't believe in no God. He didn't believe all the most stories in the Bible. That's for the fools out there. If you want to go there, fine. He was a Zionist. See, a Zionist is altogether different. It means that he don't necessarily have to go to the synagogue or believe in the Sefer HaTorah. He don't believe in that stuff. He's a Zionist. Okay? Nathan Birnbaum is the father of Zionism by creating socialist Zionism in 1880. Theodor Herzl was the father of political Zionism, 1896.
He was an atheist.
Right, he was an atheist. See? So you have 29 or 30 Zionist groups. Okay? They don't believe in that junk. Capitalist, a man that's is a capitalist, he don't believe in that. I'm going to show you, for instance, South Africa, the apartheid system, right? You had those capitalists under De Beers and Oppenheimer had control of all the diamond, the gold, and mineral mines of South Africa. Is that right? And in South Africa, for the masses of people in the secular community, they had many different religious groups coming in and denominations trying to tranquilize the people, okay, and feed them some type of religion, right? But I always said, if you want to change somebody, go down to De Beers and Oppenheimer and the ones that own the diamond, the gold, and the mineral mines, the ones who created apartheid. Change their mind. Give them the religion and see what happened to you. Get thrown out of South Africa. They don't want that junk. That's for the fools out there. Tell them, there is room at the cross. And all those stupid stuff. And Islam alaikum. I'm a black Hebrew. They don't, hey, fine. If that's what you want, fine. Just get out of my way because I'm making me some money. And you'll keep all that stuff. Okay? All right. Who's next? Okay, young man.
You have two books. You have the historical origin of Christianity, Islam. What about Judaism? Do you have any literature on that?
Well,
on this religion, or is anything in literature, any books, anything about?
Not yet. My wife and I, we're compiling a book now for the historical origin of Judaism.
Okay.
But I have given you, I've touched on some very key things if you really understood what I said about Judaism. Judaism is a paper religion. Has nothing to do with human history. See? Write that down. Write it down on your paper. Said Judaism is a paper religion and it has nothing to do with human history.
He said he got another question.
Okay, I'm gonna get to it. I mean, as soon as you write that down.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. I can't rush you, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any literature or books or anything about King James? Because I heard a lot of Christians go to this particular book. They speak about God. God said this. God said that. And I get into a big debate with them about the book. But nobody has any literature about King James. They can tell me everything about God, but they can tell me nothing about this author named King James.
Okay.
So I was wondering if anything. I heard a lot of negative things, like he's a homosexual and killed his mother and so on and so forth. But I don't see nothing in writing.
Okay.
So I was wondering if any literature that you could recommend.
All right, now I'm gonna give you the answer. I'm gonna give you the answer. You listening? King James did not write the King James Version of the Bible. It had nothing to do with it. It was a book that was dedicated to him. And I'm going to tell you who wrote the King James Version. A man by the name of Lancelot Andrews. A-N-D-E-R-E. W-S-E. A-N-D-E-R-E-W-S-E. Andrews. Lancelot Andrews. You look him up, get your encyclopedia, and look up Lancelot Andrews. See? A-N-D-R-E-W-E-S. That's how you spell it. Okay? Lancelot Andrews. He and his group of theologians, English theologians, compiled what we know today as the King James Version for the King James. See, King James had nothing to do with this. You see, it's like if I write a book and dedicate it to Oprah Winfrey. Oprah didn't have nothing to do with the book. I wrote the damn book. You see that? Now, listen to what happened in the King James Version. Now, let's go back. Give you a little breakdown on the history of the Bible. Let's deal with the first printing of what is known as the Hebrew or Old Testament Bible was printed in 1475 in Germany. Okay? That's the first printing of the Old Testament. 1475, the Roman Catholic Church was only 30 years old, because that's the second seat of Christianity. It's Europe. And on the outskirts of Rome, in 1445, they built St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica, over the catacombs. The catacombs are the burial grounds, where they bury people below ground. So today, that's where the Vatican was built. You got that? Okay. So, and so in 1475, the first Hebrew Bible came out in print. Now, in 1437, a man by the name of Johannes Gutenberg had invented a printing press with movable print for the very first time. But the problem, after inventing that, he had no money. So what he did was borrow money from Johannes Fuss, a capitalist. So at a high interest rate, a usury rate. And he couldn't pay it back, so Johannes Fuss confiscated that printing press from Johannes Gutenberg. But there was a problem. After confiscating a printing press with movable print, that means that you can print up thousands of books and literature. Is that correct? But that in the secular community in Europe, the Europeans couldn't read or write. That's the problem. Okay? So now we're talking about the 15th and 16th century. Okay? So now, what the capitalists and Europeans did with this printing press, what can we do? We got to make some money off this printing press. So what they did, they went into the Roman Catholic Church and got Martin Luther. Remember Martin Luther? Who started what is known as the Protestant movement, or the protest movement against the Roman Catholic Church in 1517. He nailed 95 reform theses on the church door in Wittenberg, Germany, for the Roman Catholic Church to reform. Okay? Who was Martin Luther financed by? Jews. capitalists. Okay? He was financed by them to do that, to start what is known in history as the second Renaissance era of Europe, the age of learning. The first Renaissance was in the 15th century. That was the age of arts and crafts, building in Europe. Okay? Now, with that Protestant movement or protest movement, the Roman Catholic Church had no literature. I'm getting up to the King James. The Roman Catholic Church had no literature. So in their church, they had a homosexual by the name of Desiderius Erasmus. It's in my book. And my wife talks about it, and I'll talk about it in the Historical Origin of Christianity. Desiderius Erasmus. I'm not saying that he was a homosexual on my own. He is known as a world-renowned homosexual. Okay? It's not just Walter Williams saying it. Okay? They got books out there with his name on the front cover of the world's most famous homosexual, and Desiderius Erasmus is on the front cover. Okay? Now, Pope Alexander VI in 1500 commissioned Desiderius Erasmus to write something on the object of Christianity. The something on the object of Christianity is what? Jesus the Christ. See, they had no literature. You see? So he came out after 16 years with what is known as the Novum Instrumentum of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And they always tell you that John came later. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, we're going to get to John. Okay, now, Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And then Erasmus wrote 6 other manuscripts. 1 and 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Galatians, and Epistle to the Romans. Those are his 9 manuscripts. Okay? So he created what is known as the Novum Instrumentum in 1516. In 1519, they changed it from the Novum Instrumentum to the Novum Testamentum. And in 1535, they changed it to the New Testament. See, this is history. You see? It has nothing to do with tradition. Tradition is not telling you this. Okay? But you have to study human world history to find out this information. See, the word novum means new. Testamentum means testament. You see that? Now, let's move up a little further. Now, the Novum Instrumentum was written with Greek letters, okay, not English letters. The first person to translate the New Testament out of the Greek alphabet into Greek alphabet is a misnomer, but then we're going to use that term so we can understand what we're talking about. So the first person to translate the New Testament out of the Greek letters into English letters was a man by the name of William Tyndale. You ever heard of him? Okay. 1525. Okay? And then there's a man by the name of Miles Coverdale. I'm giving you a little overview on the history of the Bible. Miles Coverdale from 1539 to 1541. He wrote 3 Bibles. One was the Great Bible dedicated to Henry VIII. And the second one was the Cranmer Bible because Thomas Cranmer was his ecclesiastical advisor. And the third one was the Geneva Bible. Thomas Cranmer told Henry VIII how to get out of his marriage. Because at the time, the Church of England was part of the Roman Catholic Church. So the Roman Catholic Church had rules that if you marry, that's it. Mm-hmm. So Thomas Cranmer showed him how to get out of that. Said, take this church, the Church of England, and omit the Pope. To hell with the Pope. And you go ahead and get your divorce and get this other woman that you're in love with. Okay? And when Henry VIII died, you know what they did to Thomas Cranmer? They tied him to a stake and burned him. Okay?
And they-
So you bastards, you. But anyway.
That's the one they dug back
Okay.
up and stomped his ashes?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let's move a little further. Those friars out of France created the Douay French Bible, which is a Bible that was a censored Bible. Because it was censored by the Pope. In other words, the Pope dictated to these friars, the word friar means brothers, Christian brothers, of what to put in that Bible. See? See? So now, we're talking about, they came out this censored Bible, the Douay Bible, with the Old Testament first, okay? And we're talking about a time of like I said, the 16th century, okay? So now, no, I'm sorry, yeah, 16th century. And then in the 17th century, the beginning of the 17th century, the same friars came out with, in 1610, a censored version of the Old Testament. Now, what the Protestant has to do now is create a Bible to counter that. You see? So what they did, they created the King James Version under Lancelot Andrewes that I was telling you about. He and his group of theologians, you look it up, and get your encyclopedia and look up Lancelot Andrewes. And he'll tell you about what he did, how he created the King James Version with his group of theologians. And guess what? Nobody's telling you this. Guess what came out in the King James Version? The fourth gospel. John came out in that King James Version for the very first time, because Erasmus came out with the Novum Instrumentum of the New Testament only with the three gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And they always tell you that John came later. It did in the King James Version. And in the King James Version, when John came out, guess who was a Jew? Jesus the Christ. Huh? You see that? See? And does that answer your question?
Yeah.
All right, now let me bring this to you while I got you all tuned up. The first seat of Christianity was in Africa, in the Hagia Sophia, in Constantinople, Turkey, because Turkey, in that region, in that area, they saying it is the Middle East. That's a misnomer to keep you Africans from knowing that that part of the world is part of the continent of Africa. It goes from Turkey down to Yemen and the countries in between. The countries in between is Arabia, Saudi Arabia. And in 1920, they took part of Saudi Arabia and made Iraq out of it. Iran is in there too. And Jordan is in there, is that right? In 1928, they made the country called Jordan, because the British was given a mandate for all of that territory after World War I, because they had defeated and overthrew the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And the League of Nations in 1920 gave them a mandate for all of that land. You see? So what happened, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. In that land, you have, like I said, Turkey, you have Yemen, you have Saudi Arabia, you have Iraq, you have Iran, you have Jordan, you have Syria, you have Lebanon, Beirut, etc., etc. All that's part of the continent of Africa. Okay? Now, let's go back to the Hagia Sophia. I'm going to tell you something. Now, watch where I'm going with this now. It's very important, because nobody's telling you this. In the Hagia Sophia, which was in Constantinople, Turkey, and Constantinople, Turkey was the seat and the capital of the Byzantine Eastern African Roman Empire. Okay? And they built a walled city that they call Constantinople. You see that? And in that city, they had the world's first Christian church and the world's first university for the European, called the Church of Hagia Sophia. Okay? They don't want you to know. You don't hear nothing about no Church of Hagia Sophia. Preachers don't know nothing about it. Okay? Even the Roman Catholic priest. A friend of mine who lives in Seattle, Washington, he walks up to the Roman Catholic priest and said, have you ever heard of the Church of Hagia Sophia? He says, no. And he's a priest. See, so I'm the one, and my wife, Arnetta, we're the ones that's bringing out this information for our African community. I want you to be here. I want you to be down with the gang. Okay? I want you to be one of the cats. Hey, baby, what's happening? See, you got all the answers. I want you to have that. Now, let me fast forward to get to my point. When the Ottoman Turks took over and overran the Byzantine emperors, they took the last vestige of those Byzantine emperors and they went in, they hemmed them up in the walled city, the double walled city of the Church of of Constantinople. Okay? Long story short, the Byzantine emperor had ecclesiastical control and political control of that church. Anything that was religious, they appointed the people to be part of the religious order. So they had ecclesiastical control. They appointed the patriarch of the Hagia Sophia, and they appointed the patriarch of Constantinople. The patriarch of the Hagia Sophia was a diaphysitic Christian. Now you may not understand what I'm talking about, you have to read the books though. And the patriarch of Constantinople was a monophysite. So, but he had, as a Byzantine emperor, he had control of all religious order, thoughts, and activities. So now, under the donation of Constantine, now you have to read, see the donation of Constantine, in my book, I talk about all of the council meetings, like the Nicene Council, you heard of the Nicene Council, 325. There are three historical things, and I think I'm the only scholar that's bringing that out of any race, creed, or color. There are three historical things that brought about the Council of Nicaea to come about in 325. That one was the Donatist schismatic controversy. Two was the donation of Constantine. And three, the strong statement by Arius. But anyway, here we are in 1439. John VIII, the 8th, was the Byzantine ruler. Okay? And those Turks were all, they had control of all of the Byzantine territories, all throughout Africa, all in the Balkans, and all in southern Russia, and all up into Russia and so forth. They had, that was their territory. But that used to be the territory of the Byzantine Empire. Now it's in the hands of the Turks, Ottoman Turks. Okay? So what they did, John VIII did, you see, it was very imminent that the Church of Hagia Sophia was going to be seized and Constantinople was going to be seized. Just a matter of time. Okay? Because the Ottoman Turks was outside of that city. Okay? And they were fighting to get in. But anyway, John VIII in 1439 went to Italy, in Florence, Italy, at a council that's known in history as the Council of Ferrara. And he merged the Eastern Church. Now what's the Eastern Church? It's the Hagia Sophia. It's the first seat of Christianity with the West. He gave away his donation of Constantine, his authority. He gave away his ecclesiastical authority. That paved the way for the seat of Christianity to be moved out of Africa now into Europe. Okay? And that's when they picked the area outside of Rome, the suburbs of Rome, over the catacombs, to build what is known as the Vatican. You see that? 1445. You see? Now, the seat of Christianity moved out of Africa into Europe now, right? Now watch this. Watch. Are you listening? Mm-hmm. Now watch this. When the seat of Christianity moved out of Africa into Europe, guess what happened? The Last Supper came about. Christ had 12 disciples. All came about, right? The crucifixion of Christ came about, right? Now all this didn't happen in okay? They said that this Jesus Christ was born 30 AD. Okay? So now why did it wait to over 1,400 years to say that the crucifixion of Christ was crucified? Why did it say that this Christ was at the Last Supper with the 12 disciples and all of them white folk? They didn't have no African up there holding a fan in them. Didn't have that. They had all white, just total white. Huh? You see that? See what happened? All when they went to who created the Last Supper? Leonardo da Vinci. He drew it. And what did they do? Writers put stories behind that. That this is Christ having the Last Supper with his 12 disciples. See? And the religious community are asleep because they sit in the pews. They don't have to think. They sit up there and believe and listen to Reverend Teeny Weeny. And believe this stuff. But when Christianity moved out of Africa into Europe, you get what? You get the Last Supper, you get Christ and the 12 disciples, you get the crucifixion, you get Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene was created by who? Leonardo da Vinci. Okay? The crucifixion was created by whom? Raphael and Michelangelo. All of that, see? And stories went behind that. This is the history to that. Then all of your biblical characters came out in Europe. Go back to the Old Testament. The Old Testament was written by Moses Maimon, called Maimonides. You see that? See the first 5 books of Moses. Was it the first 5 books of Moses Maimon? Huh? Wasn't the Moses of the Bible? The Jews said Moses never existed. They didn't have no record of no Moses. Huh? That's the thing. But we have to have scholars to come before you and bring you this information. That's the reason why Shabazz, Brother Shabazz and his wife brought me here to tell you and give you this message. See? Jamila. She's the cause of me coming here and my wife coming here. She got on that computer. Give her a hand. That's right. She got on that computer and got those tickets for me and my wife. That's right. Shabazz, but she got to get the money from Shabazz. That's okay, we got it. You see that? And then here comes the New Testament out of Europe. You see that? Erasmus, Lancelot Andrews, all those biblical characters came forth out of Europe. Why did they come forth in Africa? Wasn't there. See? But no one is telling you this. See? So, any other questions? Right.
You got somebody back there in the back.
Okay, speak out because I can't see you so on these lights.
So how does the Moors link back to ancient Kemet? And wouldn't it be in ancient Egypt? And wouldn't it be, is it the same reference in calling yourself a Moor? Wouldn't that be the same thing?
No, because see, the most important name that you can identify ourselves as a group is ancient Egypt. Because all the civilization came from the ancient Egyptians, not the Moors.
Can you tell the time link? How did it become? How did the ancient Egypt? How did they ancient Egyptians become Moors?
Moor is a nickname. Okay, a Moor is an individual who comes out of North Africa, out of Mauritania and Morocco, crossing the Mediterranean, going into Spain. Okay. They give you 2 Moors. I wrote about the Moors in the Historic Origin of Islam. They give you 2 Moors. They give you the Saracen Moor, which is the European Moor. In 711, this Saracen Moor came out of Morocco, crossed the Mediterranean into Spain, and brought Islam in there. That's not true. That's not true. That's historically incorrect. Because Islam is a religion based upon a book called the Quran. And without the Quran, you have no Islam. Prior to the book being created by Jews, called the Holy Quran, you had Mohammedanism. Okay? You had Mohammedanism. So what they're saying about some Moors coming out of North Africa, crossing the Mediterranean, going into Spain, and brought Islam, historically incorrect. Now, let me talk about the real Moors. The real Moors are Africans. And we're talking about a time of 1054, when these African Melkite, Coptic Egyptian people, known today in history as the Moors, went into Spain. They went into Spain and they created a civilization there among the Spanish, pagan, heathen Europeans. And they were the ones that built those great cities of Cordova, Seville, and all those cities that you see over there that is of greatness. And they built those cities over there, thus bringing a civilization to that part of the world. Okay? I heard Duke Ellington one day being interviewed. This is an old interview. And he said that, you know, our jazz musicians, a lot of those guys were very intellectual. And he said that we as a people, African people, brought civilization 3 times to the world. In Egypt, Spain, and America. Okay? So, the real Moors, who are Africans, came into Spain in 1054. That's your date. And they brought a civilization into Spain because they brought a form of writing into Spain that is known as the Arabic script. They use what is known as the Arabic script for decoration, you know, decorating buildings and so on. So the real Moors are the Africans, 1054, coming out of Africa, North Africa, and more North Africa.